I'm Randy Daniels. Max Armstrong, a familiar face, familiar voice, and now a familiar author as well. Max, you are here at the I&I Antique Tractor and Gas Engine Club's Historic Farm Days 2016 edition, autographing and selling books, and you've done a lot of that today.
Well, we've had some fun, Randy. You know, the neat thing about it is we get to see so many folks that we've known a long time, and the problem with that is I don't know when to shut up. I keep talking, and I love visiting with people, and that kind of slows the process down, but that's all right too.
What's the old Groucho Marx line? You talk so much you must have been vaccinated with a phonograph needle?
I remember hearing that, as a matter of fact. You know, I probably come by it quite natural because my dad was that way. I remember we'd go into the IH dealership, Adams and Morrow there in Princeton, Indiana, and we'd go up to the parts counter, and Dad would stand there and he'd get the parts he needed, and he would stand there and visit, and I'd be wandering the showroom floor, looking at those brand new International Harvester tractors, smelling that new rubber, smelling that new paint, thinking, oh, if we just had one of those, if we just had a 1206, you know, oh man. I loved being at the dealership, but my dad was one who liked to talk.
Before you understood the value of a dollar, Dad, why can't we get that one? Huh?
Well, you're exactly right. I was telling somebody this the other day. In fact, I was talking to the TSA agent at the airport in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it was kind of slack at that moment. He started talking about his farm roots, and I was telling him about mine and the fact that our parents were conservative, and that was the way Dad was. He said, oh, we don't have the latest tractors, we don't have the brand new combine, but he said, I'm able to sleep at night.
Wasn't that wonderful growing up in Indiana, though, with that type of a rural upbringing?
I was very, very blessed, Randy, and I think this comes across a little bit in my book, Stories from the Heartland. I say it's a book of Thanksgiving, and I mean that because of all of the folks that I've had the chance to meet. I got a note this week from a guy by the name of Clayton Yeiter. Clayton Yeiter was at one time president of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. He was Bush 41's agriculture secretary, and he was trade representative of the United States. He's the guy who really pried open the doors to Japan for our beef and pork, and I really think so much of Clayton, and he wrote me a very nice note this week about the book and about the plaque that went in with the Tribune Tower in Chicago. And he's one of those guys that I just feel so blessed to have been around and had the chance to get to know, and I like to think I learned a little bit of something from some of these people.
Let's hope so, and that it shows through in the book. Give us a synopsis of what is contained in Stories from the Heartland.
Well, it's about a little bit about my family, probably more so than I really intended, but there's some verbiage in there about Mom and Dad and how I grew up, where I grew up. Some of it's about the radio business. Being at a radio station, very much like you, Randy, and your radio roots. On a Sunday, you did everything at the station. I burned the trash, turned the transmitter on, turned it off. I put on the church programs. I had never missed a day of Sunday school until I went to work in radio. Randy, that was the beginning of the end.
That was it. And look where it led us now.
But every Sunday morning, there were two people who would come out to the station. Both were ministers to do their programs. And I would put on a variety of church programs. And I probably was exposed to just as much Christianity by way of my early radio work, simply because I sat there and listened to the broadcast, of course, and interacted with the ministers.
Those glory days, though, the early days of radio, I think are best probably summed up in the old Bill Anderson song, Country DJ.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Where you did everything.
You really did everything. And I remember the radio station guys telling me, keep the doors locked. On a Sunday when you're there by yourself, keep the doors locked. And it wasn't because we needed to worry about an intruder. They weren't afraid that somebody would come in and try to take over the station. They said, just in case the FCC inspector is in the area. It'll give you a chance to catch up on your transmitter readings, which of course were required back in the day.
FCC, feeling kind of caught.
And the interesting thing about it was when the FCC inspector was in the area, all of the chief engineers knew it. Because anytime a guy got an inspection, he told all the other radio stations.
The word spread, even though it wasn't supposed to.
Yeah. And I also laugh about the fact that first radio job down Highway 1 at Mount Carmel, there was an air conditioner, a window air conditioner built into the wall of the studio. And the air conditioner was an International Harvester. Just like the one over here in the Chapter 10 booth, it was an IH air conditioner. And every time that mic went on a hot day in July, you were driving down the road, you knew when the announcer turned on the mic because you could hear this whoa, whoa, whoa in the background with that rumbling IH.
That's awesome. If someone wants to get a copy of your book, what's the best way they can do that?
It's available on Amazon, or maybe the easiest way is maxarmstrongbook.com. They can go right there on the website, maxarmstrongbook.com, and order it right there, put it on the credit card. That's maxarmstrongbook.com. Did you catch that?
What was it again? I missed it.
maxarmstrongbook.com.
I'll write that down as soon as we get done here.
And I'd be very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm Randy Daniels for WITY. maxarmstrongbook.com, I believe it is. You should check it out.
For WITY, Ileana's best choice.